While everyone discusses what's going to happen in the Gaza Strip on the day after, and while Israel is fighting against Hamas cells in Judea and Samaria, the Palestinian Authority, under the leadership of Mahmoud Abbas, continues to pay cash stipends, to pay rewards to terrorist murderers. Have a look at this report from Channel 14 News.
ייתכן שהרשות הפלסטינית בעצם משלמת משכורת לנוח'בות עד היום?
קודם כל כן, אנחנו יודעים שהרשות הפלסטינית משלמת משכורות למחבלי הנוח'בה. אני אגיד לך יותר מזה, שמעון. כל מחבל נוח'בה שנהרג בקרבות ה-7 באוקטובר, המשפחה שלו קיבלה מענק של יותר מ-7,000 שקלים לכל משפחה. על זה תוסיף את זה שהרשות הפלסטינית משלמת משכורות לכל מחבל נוח'בה שנמצא כרגע בכלא הישראלי. יבוא האדם הפשוט וישאל את עצמו, הרי הרשות הפלסטינית מסוכסכת עם חמאס, נכון? יש להם מאבקי שליטה על מי ישלוט ברצועה, על מי ישלוט ברשות הפלסטינית. בכל הנוגע לרצח יהודים, הרשות הפלסטינית וחמאס אחד הם. אומר אבו מאזן, אני משלם לא רק למחבלים מהרשות הפלסטינית, אני משלם גם למחבלי חמאס, וגם, ואת זה הרבה אנשים לא יודעים, שמעון, משלם גם לערבי ישראלי שיוצא לרצוח יהודים, גם הוא יקבל משכורת מהרשות הפלסטינית.
So let's understand what we're seeing here. As you saw in that video, the Palestinian Authority pays cash rewards. They pay pensions and stipends to terrorists who commit murder, who murder Israelis or people visiting Israel. If we go back to 2016, there was an American tourist named Taylor Force, a U.S. combat veteran, had served tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and was sitting in a cafe in Jaffa and was murdered by an Arab terrorist. And immediately, the Palestinian Authority, under the leadership of Mahmoud Abbas, began paying that terrorist's family a stipend. The Force family got together with some American legislators, and they proposed a law called the Taylor Force Act that stated that the United States would withhold all aid from the Palestinian Authority so long as the Palestinian Authority continues to pay terrorist murderers. The law passed, and Donald Trump signed it. So it's now the law of the land of the United States. In March of 2018, Donald Trump signed the law. Shortly thereafter, started enforcing it, and the United States cut off aid to the Palestinian Authority unless they would stop paying terrorist murderers. Now, we'll get to that in a moment. The Palestinian Authority continued to pay terrorist murderers, even though the United States cut off aid to them. An amazing thing happened. After the Taylor Force Act passed, terrorism in Israel declined to levels it had never, ever been at. Now, during the 5-year period, 2014 to 2018, the 5 years before the Taylor Force Act was signed, an average of 20 Israelis or visitors to Israel were murdered by terrorists every single year. And then in 2018, which was the first year of the enforcement of the Taylor Force Act, there were only 14 casualties from terrorism, only 14 murder victims from terrorism that year, the lowest in years. And then in 2019, the first year of full enforcement, the first year that was entirely enforced, the number of murder victims fell to 11. And then in 2020, it fell further to 3. And these are the 3 lowest numbers of terrorist casualties in any years in Israel's history from 1948 till today. Then, shortly after the Biden administration took office, on March 26, 2021, the Biden administration announced that it would be sending $75 million to the Palestinian Authority to regain the trust and goodwill of the Palestinian Authority. And this was in direct violation of the Taylor Force Act. And the Biden State Department said at the time that this was only the beginning of a renewed pledge to support the Palestinian Authority. And over the time of their administration, the Biden administration gave over $1 billion to the Palestinian Authority, even though they continued to pay these terrorist murderers. Now, in 2021, the first year of the Biden administration, 17 Israelis were murdered by Arab terrorists. That was the highest number since before the Trump administration, since 2015. And all of those murders, all of those 17 murders happened after Biden started sending money to the Palestinian Authority at the end of March, a full quarter into the year. Not surprisingly, 2022 saw yet another rise in terrorist victims in Israel, with 31 murder victims. And then 2023 was even deadlier than 2022, even before the October 7th massacre took place. Now, Palestinian Media Watch, a very important organization that monitors what's being said in the Arabic language media among the Palestinians, recently exposed that at least 316 terrorist prisoners who have been released in the current deal, the current hostage and terrorist release ceasefire deal with Hamas, have left prison as millionaires in shekels. Now, this wealth has been provided to them by the Palestinian Authority. The entire time they've been sitting in prison, they've been getting these monthly payouts into their bank accounts. The 734 terrorists who were released in the first part of this deal have collectively received $142,353,110. $142 million plus they've received collectively over the years. Now, since 2019, since Donald Trump started fully enforcing the Taylor Force Act, the Palestinian Authority has been short on cash. But rather than cut back on payments to terrorist murderers, they have cut back on what they're paying their civil servants. And they've only really been paying them between 50 and 80% of their salaries each month. They've been skimping on paying their civil servants so that they can continue to reward terrorist murderers. It's unbelievable. And most recently, there are pictures of terrorists released in the current hostage terrorist release ceasefire deal with Hamas, receiving payments from the Palestinian Authority that were posted to Facebook by the PLO, which is the parent organization of the Palestinian Authority. In this picture on your screen, you can see a terrorist who was released on January 30th holding an envelope that says on the envelope, a grant from President Mahmoud Abbas. This was posted to the PLO Commission of Prisoner Affairs Facebook page on January 30th, 2025, just a few weeks ago. So here you have the Palestinian Authority, who's trying to tell the world that they should be the ones to govern Gaza and that they're the good guys and they're going to work with Israel and they're the peace partner. And meanwhile, they continue to pay out large sums of money to terrorist murderers. Now, just a couple of days ago on February 19th, the Washington Post reported that the Trump administration has cut off all funding to the Palestinian security forces while they assess how the money is being spent and they assess the conduct of the Palestinian security forces in their own dealings with Hamas. So Abbas, anticipating this, once the Trump administration came in, Mahmoud Abbas, he remembered what happened in the first Trump administration when his funding got cut off. So this time he came up with a plan. He issued a presidential decree on February 10th, said that the Palestinian Authority is no longer going to pay terrorists stipends. They're not going to give them the money anymore. Instead, they're going to transfer funds to an organization called the Palestinian National Economic Empowerment Institution, which is a non-governmental organization, ostensibly an independent organization that is concerned with economic empowerment among the Palestinians. So that organization, the Palestinian National Economic Empowerment Institution, will in turn pay the terrorists the stipends. So this way, the Palestinian Authority can say, we're not paying terrorists anymore. We're just simply granting money to this economic empowerment institution. But it's really just a way of funneling the money through this NGO so that there isn't a direct payment from the Palestinian Authority to the terrorists themselves. It's an attempt to hide the fact that they're still paying terrorists from the American government as the Americans now step in and start looking at how the PA is spending money. Everyone's talking about what's going to happen the day after, what's going to happen the day after in Gaza, what's going to happen in Judea and Samaria. And the Palestinian Authority is trying to position itself as one of the good guys, as the ones who could legitimately be the governing body of these Palestinian areas. But they continue to pay large stipends to these terrorists, to terrorist murderers, and they have never backed off of that. Even when other aid gets cut, they'll cut other things. They'll even cut the salaries of their civil servants, but they continue to pay these large sums of money to terrorist murderers. And now that the Trump administration is back, so now Abbas has come up with this scheme for how to hide the fact that he's paying the terrorist murderers, to try to convince the Trump administration that he's a peaceful actor, that that the Palestinian Authority are on the good side of things, and they can continue to work with them. But let's make no mistake about it. The Palestinian Authority is continuing to pay the murderers of Israelis, to pay terrorists, to pay the terrorists who participated in October 7th. They are a terrorist organization themselves, and this only underscores the point that there can be no peaceful resolution of everything going on in Israel with Israel's enemies that includes the Palestinian Authority. They are a terrorist organization, plain and simple.